Virgin couple's first night. CEO loses control to his wife's seduction and becomes addicted. Hey friends, in the name of love, in the name of joy, and in the name of all the beautiful emotions that make life worth living, may your hearts always be filled with warmth, happiness, and endless love. May every tear you shed be only of joy. May every prayer you whisper be answered with abundance. And may your life be blessed with a love story as deep and magical as the one you're about to witness today. Dear amazing viewers, welcome to this beautiful journey of love and passion. Before we dive into today's special story, I have a heartfelt request for you. I truly need your support. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another beautiful love story. Your support means the world to me, and it keeps this journey of storytelling alive. Now let me tell you, today's story is beyond special. It's a blockbuster tale of love, emotions, and deep passion, one that will make your heart race and your soul melt. If you believe in love, if you believe in the magic of romance, then this story is just for you. So, I invite you to sit back, relax, and fully immerse yourself in this beautiful tale. Plug in your hands-free, connect your AirPods, or turn up your speakers, because this experience is about to take you on an unforgettable ride of emotions. Let's begin this enchanting journey. Elena sat on the edge of the grand silk-covered bed, her fingers nervously tracing the intricate embroidery on her ivory nightgown, her heart pounding in her chest as the reality of this night settled deep into her bones. The candlelight flickered gently, casting a warm glow around the luxurious bedroom. Yet nothing felt warmer than the presence of the man standing before her, the man she had loved with all her heart, the man who was now her husband. CEO Smith, a man of power and authority in the business world, stood still, his deep, intense gaze fixed solely on the delicate woman who had stolen his heart. His breath hitched as he took in the sight of Elena, her beauty so ethereal that it sent a wave of longing crashing through him, an emotion he had never felt before with such intensity. The weight of this moment, their first night together, hung between them, a mix of excitement, nervous anticipation, and a love so pure it made the air thick with unspoken desires. They were both virgins, untainted by the touch of another, and tonight they would step into a world neither had explored before. Elena felt the heat rising to her cheeks as she met Smith's gaze, her fingers clutching at the silk sheets beneath her. Smith took a deep breath, walking toward her slowly, each step measured, deliberate, as if he were afraid that one wrong move would break the spell of this sacred night. He had spent years conquering the business world, making decisions that affected millions, yet nothing had ever made his hands tremble the way they did now. He knelt before Elena, his hands reaching up to cup her face, his thumb brushing gently against her flushed cheek. "You're breathtaking," he murmured, his voice husky, filled with a mixture of awe and desire. Elena swallowed, her lips parting slightly, but no words came out. She didn't need to speak. The way her eyes softened, the way she leaned into his touch, spoke volumes. Smith's heart pounded as he lifted a trembling hand to tuck a loose strand of her golden hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her skin as he marveled at the softness of her. He had always known Elena was beautiful, but tonight, under the dim golden glow of the bedroom lights, she looked like an angel, his angel. Slowly, as if pulled by an invisible force, he leaned forward, his lips brushing against her forehead in the gentlest of touches. Elena's breath hitched, her body shivering at the sheer tenderness in his actions. He was not just a powerful CEO tonight, he was a man, a husband, a lover stepping into the most sacred journey with the woman he adored. Smith pulled back slightly, his gaze searching hers for any sign of hesitation. but all he found was the same mixture of nervousness and longing that mirrored his own. "Are you afraid?" he whispered, his fingers trailing down the side of her face, memorizing every curve. Elena shook her head slowly, a small, shy smile tugging at her lips. "Not afraid, just..." She paused, taking a deep breath. "It's all so new." Smith nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. He too felt the same strange, exhilarating rush coursing through his veins. He had spent years mastering control, keeping his emotions in check. Yet, one look at Elena tonight and he knew he was powerless against her. He reached for her hands, entwining his fingers with hers, feeling the slight tremble in her grip. "We'll go slow," he promised, his voice a gentle caress against her ears. Elena exhaled softly, nodding, trusting him completely. Smith leaned in again, his lips brushing against her temple before trailing down to her cheek, then lower, stopping just before reaching her lips. He waited, his breath mingling with hers, giving her the choice, the control. And then, as if drawn by an undeniable force, Elena tilted her face up, closing the small distance between them, her lips finally meeting his in the softest, most tentative kiss. A soft sigh escaped her as she melted into his embrace, her hands finding their way to his shoulders. The moment their lips touched, it was as if the world around them disappeared. There was no rush, no urgency, only the slow, mesmerizing dance of their lips, learning each other in the most intimate way possible. Smith's arms wrapped around her, pulling her closer, his heart pounding against his ribcage as he deepened the kiss, savoring the sweetness of her. Elena clung to him, feeling the warmth of his body seeping into hers, awakening a feeling she had never known before. It was intoxicating, the way he held her, the way his lips moved against hers with both restraint and an underlying hunger that sent shivers down her spine. She could feel his hesitation, his effort to be gentle, to not rush this sacred moment. But she also felt the way his body tensed, the silent battle he was fighting to hold back the storm of emotions raging inside him. And then, as if some invisible thread snapped between them, the hesitation faded, replaced by an undeniable need to be closer, to feel more. Smith lifted Elena into his arms, carrying her to the center of the bed, his eyes never leaving hers as he gently laid her down against the soft pillows. He hovered above her, his hands bracing on either side of her as he took a moment to simply look at her, to take in every delicate detail, every curve, every inch of the woman he loved. Elena felt her breath hitch under his intense gaze, her heart fluttering wildly in her chest. "You're so beautiful," he whispered, his fingers tracing a path down her arm, leaving a trail of fire in their wake. Elena felt her body respond to his touch in a way she'd never experienced before, her skin tingling, her heart racing. She reached up, her fingers grazing his jawline, marveling at the way his muscles tensed under her touch. Smith closed his eyes briefly, inhaling deeply as if trying to steady himself, and then, with a soft, reverent sigh, he leaned down, his lips capturing hers once more, this time with a newfound intensity, a passion that set their souls ablaze. Their bodies pressed together, molding perfectly as if they were made for each other. The nervousness that once lingered between them dissolved, replaced by a deep, consuming love that left them breathless. The night stretched on, each touch, each kiss, each whispered promise, deepening the unbreakable bond between them. And when they finally reached the peak of their love, surrendering to each other completely, it was not just an act of passion, it was an act of trust, of devotion, of two souls intertwining in the purest form of love. As they lay in each other's arms, their bodies still tangled, their hearts beating in perfect harmony, Smith pressed a lingering kiss to Elena's forehead, his arms tightening around her, "You're mine," he murmured against her skin, his voice filled with both possession and adoration. Elena smiled, her fingers tracing lazy circles on his chest. "And you're mine," she whispered back, feeling more complete than she had ever felt before. That night was more than just their first. It was the beginning of something deeper, something eternal. And as sleep finally claimed them, wrapped in each other's warmth, they both knew this was only the start of a love that would last a lifetime. Elena stirred gently, the first rays of the golden morning sun slipping through the sheer curtains, casting a soft glow over the luxurious bedroom. Her body felt warm, enveloped in a firm yet comforting embrace, and as her hazel eyes fluttered open, the first thing she saw was Smith's peaceful, handsome face inches from hers. Her heart skipped a beat as memories of the night before rushed through her mind. The tender kisses, the whispered promises, the way he had held her so protectively as they crossed the threshold of intimacy together. A deep blush spread across her cheeks as she realized just how close they were, their bodies still tangled beneath the silky sheets. Her breath caught when she felt his arm tighten around her waist, pulling her closer as he buried his face into the crook of her neck, his warm breath sending a wave of tingling sensations down her spine. She was shy, yet her heart brimmed with a newfound sense of belonging, of love so deep it left her breathless. Smith stirred against her, a lazy smile tugging at his lips before his deep blue eyes opened, still heavy with sleep. But the moment they locked onto hers, a flicker of something dark and intense ignited within them. Something possessive, something undeniable. "Good morning, my love," he murmured, his voice husky from sleep, his hand gently tracing patterns along the bare skin of her shoulder. Eleanor felt her entire body heat up under his touch, her lashes lowering in shyness as she tried to look away. But Smith wasn't having it. He cupped her chin, tilting her face back toward him, his eyes filled with warmth and adoration. "Why are you looking away?" he teased, his lips brushing softly against her forehead. "You're my wife, my everything. You don't have to be shy with me." But how could she not be shy when his gaze burned into her so deeply, when his presence alone made her heart race wildly? She bit her lip, her fingers fidgeting against his chest, unsure of what to say, but Smith only chuckled at her innocence, loving how adorably flustered she was. "Are you thinking about last night?" he asked, his voice dropping to a whisper as his fingers traced down her arm, leaving a trail of goosebumps in their wake. Elena's breath hitched, her cheeks turning an even deeper shade of crimson as she nodded slightly. "It feels like a dream," she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Like something so magical. I can't believe it really happened." Smith's gaze softened, his heart swelling with love at her words. He rolled onto his side, propping himself up on one elbow as he looked down at her, his fingers gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "It wasn't a dream, my love," he murmured, leaning down to press a lingering kiss against her forehead. "It was real. You are mine now, and I am yours. Last night was only the beginning." His words sent a shiver down Elena's spine, her heart pounding wildly as he trailed slow, feather-light kisses along her jawline, his touch both reverent and possessive. She felt an unfamiliar warmth pooling in her chest, an ache that wasn't just physical but something deeper, something that made her crave his closeness even more. She had thought the shyness would linger, that she would struggle to meet his gaze after surrendering herself to him completely. But instead, she found herself yearning for more, yearning for the way he made her feel cherished, loved, and undeniably his. "Smith," she breathed, her voice shaky yet filled with emotion. He paused, pulling back slightly to look into her eyes, his thumb brushing over her lower lip in a way that sent her pulse racing. "What is it, my love?" he asked softly, his gaze searching hers. She hesitated for a moment, then, gathering every ounce of courage, she whispered, "Hold me again, like last night." Smith's entire body tensed at her request, a deep groan escaping his lips as he tightened his grip around her, pulling her flush against his chest. "Elena," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion, "you have no idea what you do to me." His lips found hers in a slow, passionate kiss, one that spoke of endless devotion, of the depth of love he held for her. He kissed her as if she were the most precious thing in the world, as if he never wanted to let her go. Elena melted against him, her shyness fading with each passing second, replaced by something far more powerful: desire. The morning stretched on, their touches growing bolder, their whispered words filled with promises of forever. They laughed, reminisced about every stolen moment that had led them here, and with each passing second, their bond grew stronger. Smith showered her with affection, unable to resist the way she looked at him with pure love and trust in her eyes. "You are my greatest treasure," he whispered against her lips, his fingers tracing gentle circles along her back. Elena smiled, her heart overflowing with happiness as she realized that this was her forever, wrapped in Smith's arms, loved beyond measure. And as they lay together, wrapped in the warmth of each other's love, they both knew that this was only the beginning of their beautiful journey as husband and wife. Smith had always been a man of discipline, control, and restraint. As a CEO, he was known for his sharp mind, his unwavering determination, and his ability to remain composed in even the most high-pressure situations. Nothing had ever made him waver, until Elena. She was his only weakness, the one person who had the power to make him forget the world, to strip away every layer of his carefully built armor and leave him completely vulnerable in the most intoxicating way. Ever since their first night together, he found himself utterly addicted to her. Her touch, her scent, her presence. It was all-consuming, a fire that burned within him, leaving him craving her in ways he had never imagined possible. He couldn't concentrate on anything else, couldn't go a single moment without thinking about her. Every second spent away from her felt like torture, an unbearable ache that only she could soothe. His mind was no longer his own. It belonged to her now, just as his heart did. He had built an empire with sheer willpower, but with Elena, all his control crumbled the moment she looked at him with those deep, soulful eyes filled with love and trust. He wanted more of her, more of the way she made him feel, more of the love that wrapped around him like an unbreakable chain. Elena felt the same way. She had always believed in love, had always dreamed of a love so powerful it consumed her, but nothing could have prepared her for what she felt with Smith. Every moment in his arms was pure bliss. Every touch ignited something deep within her, making her crave more. He made her feel cherished, adored, worshipped in a way that was almost surreal. She had always thought shyness would linger between them after their first night, that she would hesitate, unsure of how to navigate this new world of intimacy. But with Smith, there was no hesitation, only an undeniable need to be close to him, to feel his warmth, to get lost in the overwhelming love they shared. She loved the way his hands sought her out, the way he held her so tightly as if afraid she might slip away, the way his voice dropped to a husky whisper whenever he spoke her name. He made her feel beautiful, wanted, and deeply, deeply loved. She never imagined that one person could become her entire world, but Smith had become exactly that. The mere thought of being apart from him made her heart ache. Smith, too, was helpless when it came to her. He would wake up before sunrise just to watch her sleep, to memorize every detail of her peaceful expression, the way her long lashes rested against her cheeks, the way her lips parted slightly as she breathed. He would gently brush his fingers over her soft skin, reveling in the fact that she was his, that she had given herself to him so completely. And when she finally stirred, blinking up at him with sleepy innocence, his heart would clench with so much love he thought he might break. "Good morning, my love," he would murmur, pressing a kiss to her forehead, and she would smile. Oh, that smile. It was enough to destroy every last bit of his control. He would pull her closer, nuzzling into her neck, inhaling the scent that had become his favorite addiction. "I don't think I can ever get enough of you," he admitted one morning, his voice thick with emotion as his fingers traced slow, lazy patterns along her arm. Elena blushed, her heart racing at his words, but she knew she felt the exact same way. "Then don't stop," she whispered back, wrapping her arms around him, pulling him closer, her warmth wrapping around him like a cocoon. Their love only grew stronger with each passing day. Smith no longer cared about anything else. His billion-dollar empire, the endless board meetings, the deals he used to chase with ruthless ambition. None of it mattered anymore if Elena wasn't by his side. He found himself stealing moments with her throughout the day, sneaking into the bedroom in the middle of work just to kiss her, just to hold her for a few seconds longer. His assistants and business partners noticed the change in him. The once cold and calculating CEO was now a man completely lost in love, unable to focus on anything other than his wife. He started working from home more often, simply because he couldn't bear to be away from Elena. She'd become his world, his obsession, his everything, and Elena, she felt the same. She found herself waiting for him, yearning for his presence, counting the seconds until he would walk through the door and sweep her into his arms. She loved the way he looked at her as if she was the most precious thing in existence. She loved the way he touched her with so much reverence it made her heart ache. And most of all, she loved the way he made her feel. Like she was the only woman in the world, like she was his entire universe. Their love was unbreakable, their cravings for each other endless. They spent every waking moment together, unable to get enough of the deep, passionate connection that bound them so completely. One night as they lay tangled in each other's arms, Smith brushed his fingers through Eleanor's hair, gazing at her with a look so intense it sent shivers down her spine. "I never knew love could be like this," he murmured, his voice filled with awe. "I never knew I could feel this much." Eleanor smiled, reaching up to cup his cheek, her heart swelling with overwhelming love. "Me neither," she admitted softly. "But now that I have you, I can't imagine a life without you." Smith's expression darkened slightly, a flicker of possessiveness flashing in his deep blue eyes. "You'll never have to," he vowed, tightening his hold around her. "You're mine, Elena, forever." And she was, just as he was hers. Their love was endless, their cravings insatiable, their bond unbreakable. No force in the world could ever separate them because they weren't just lovers. They were soulmates, bound together for eternity. Smith and Elena's love story became the kind that everyone around them admired. A love so deep and unbreakable that it served as a guiding light for those who witnessed it. Friends, family, and even mere acquaintances couldn't help but be drawn to the way they looked at each other, the way they moved in perfect sync, as if their hearts beat to the same rhythm. They weren't just a couple, they were soulmates, two halves of the same whole, effortlessly proving that true love, unwavering support, and boundless affection were not just fairy tales, but a reality that could exist between a husband and wife. Smith, a man once known for his ruthless business acumen and cold demeanor in the corporate world, had transformed into the most devoted and affectionate husband, a man who, despite his overwhelming responsibilities as a CEO, made sure that Elena was always his #1 priority. He never let a day go by without reminding her of how much she meant to him, whether it was through a gentle touch, an affectionate word, or an extravagant gesture that left her breathless. To the world, he was the powerful, untouchable billionaire. But to Eleanor, he was simply her loving husband, the man who never let her go a single moment without feeling cherished. He ensured that she was treated like a queen, not just in materialistic ways, but in the way he honored, respected, and adored her. His love for her wasn't just spoken in words, it was visible in every action, in the way he instinctively reached for her hand, the way he pulled her closer, even in his sleep, as if even his subconscious couldn't bear to be apart from her. Elena, in turn, filled Smith's life with warmth and affection, bringing a softness to his hardened world, a light that illuminated even his darkest days. She'd always believed in love, but she never imagined a love this profound, this all-consuming, where she felt worshipped, protected, and treasured beyond measure. She knew that being married to a billionaire could have come with its own challenges, but with Smith, there were no doubts, no insecurities, only an overwhelming sense of belonging, as if she had been made solely to love him and be loved by him in return. She made it her mission to ensure that his life, no matter how chaotic or demanding, was always filled with peace and happiness. She became his safe haven, the person he turned to when the weight of the world was too heavy on his shoulders, the gentle voice that reminded him that he didn't have to face everything alone. She understood his unspoken worries, his silent battles, and with just one embrace, she had the power to make them all disappear. She never let a single day pass without showing him how much she adored him, whether it was through the way she ran her fingers through his hair after a long day, the way she held him close when he needed comfort, or the way she loved him with every ounce of her being. Their relationship was the epitome of love and support, a dynamic that many admired but few could truly understand. Friends often joked that they set impossibly high standards for love. But in reality, Smith and Elena never saw their love as something extraordinary. It was simply the way they were meant to be. Their bond was built on mutual respect, trust, and an unwavering commitment to each other. They didn't just say, "I love you." They proved it in every moment, in every touch, in every glance filled with unsaid emotions. At family gatherings, their love was evident in the way Smith's eyes would constantly search for Elena across the room. How he would find the smallest excuses to touch her, whether it was tucking a strand of hair behind her ear or simply resting a hand on the small of her back. Their relatives often found themselves watching in awe, marveling at the way they existed in their own little world, completely attuned to each other. Their love wasn't loud or boastful, but it was undeniable, a force that could be felt by anyone who was near them. Smith took his role as a husband seriously, never allowing Eleanor to feel anything less than the queen of his heart. He didn't believe in making her just a part of his life. She was his whole life. He made sure she had everything she could ever dream of, from the grandest gestures to the simplest acts of love that meant the most. He would surprise her with candlelit dinners, even after the most exhausting days, book spontaneous getaways just to steal her away from the world. And most importantly, he never let her doubt for a second that she was his greatest treasure. Even at work, his employees were well aware that no meeting, no deal, no urgent business call could ever take priority over Elena. If she called, he answered. If she needed him, he dropped everything. There was no question, no hesitation. She was, and would always be, the most important part of his life. And Elena, despite being showered with endless love and luxury, never let a single day pass without giving just as much love in return. She didn't just admire Smith for his success. She admired him for the man he was beneath it all, for his kindness, his loyalty, his fierce devotion to those he cared about. She never let him carry the weight of the world alone, always standing by his side, reminding him that no matter how powerful he was, he didn't have to be invincible. She would wake up early just to make his mornings easier, prepare his favorite meals, even when the chefs were available, and most of all, she made sure he always felt loved, even in the smallest ways. To their friends and family, they were more than just a happily married couple. They were the definition of what love should be. They proved that love wasn't just about passion and grand gestures. It was about choosing each other every single day, through every high and low. They showed that true love wasn't just about being perfect together. It was about supporting each other, growing together, and creating a bond so strong that nothing could ever break it. Smith and Elena weren't just in love. They were each other's home, a safe place where love never wavered, where happiness was a guarantee, where forever truly meant forever. And as their love continued to deepen, as their lives intertwined even further, one thing remained certain. There was no greater love story than theirs. Smith and Elena's first time together was only the beginning of an endless journey of passion, love, and unbreakable intimacy. What started as a nervous yet magical experience quickly transformed into something neither of them could resist, a craving for each other that grew stronger with each passing night. Smith, once a man of calculated precision and control, now found himself utterly addicted to his wife, unable to go a single night without feeling her warmth against him. It wasn't just about the physical connection, though that in itself was intoxicating beyond measure. It was the way Elena made him feel, the way she looked at him with pure love and devotion, the way she surrendered herself completely to him, trusting him with every fiber of her being. He had spent his entire life building an empire, commanding boardrooms, making billion-dollar deals without batting an eye, but nothing had ever consumed him the way Elena did. No deal, no victory, no accomplishment could compare to the way she made him feel when she whispered his name in the quiet of the night, when her fingers traced the contours of his face, when she melted in his arms as if she belonged nowhere else in the world. Every night became an exploration of their love, a dance between passion and tenderness that neither of them could get enough of. Smith was relentless in his need for her, making sure that no matter how exhausting his day had been, his nights belonged to Elena. He would come home from work, his mind still occupied with endless responsibilities, but the moment he saw her, whether she was waiting for him by the door with that beautiful smile or simply curled up on the couch, lost in a book, everything else faded into insignificance. The only thing that mattered was her. He would pull her into his arms without hesitation, pressing soft, lingering kisses along her neck, whispering against her skin about how much he missed her, how much he needed her. And Elena, as shy as she had once been, had now embraced her own desires, responding to him with the same hunger, the same intensity that left them both breathless. She had been nervous at first, unsure of how to express the fire that burned within her. But Smith's love, his patience, his absolute adoration for her, had given her the confidence to be herself, to show him just how deeply she wanted him too. Their nights were filled with whispered confessions, stolen kisses that turned into desperate embraces, and a love so powerful that it left them both trembling in its wake. Smith made sure that Elena never felt anything less than worshipped, tracing every inch of her with a reverence that made her heart race. He never rushed, never treated their moments together as anything less than sacred, making sure she knew just how much he adored her. And Eleanor, in turn, gave herself to him completely, showing him that her love knew no limits. Every touch ignited something deeper between them, an insatiable need that only grew stronger with time. There was never a night where they simply went to sleep without feeling each other, without reaffirming their love in the most intimate way possible. It wasn't just about the physical passion, it was about the connection, the way they fit together so perfectly, the way they understood each other without words. Smith loved the way Elena reacted to him, the way she shivered under his touch, the way she clung to him as if he were her entire world. He would pull her close, pressing his forehead against hers, whispering how beautiful she was, how much he loved her, how he could never get enough of her. And Elena, overwhelmed by the intensity of their love, could do nothing but surrender to him completely, wrapping herself around him as if she never wanted to let go. The way he held her, the way he kissed her, the way he made love to her. It was all-consuming, a feeling so powerful that it left them both breathless. Every night, they fell asleep in each other's arms, tangled together as if they were afraid to be apart, only to wake up with the same burning desire, the same longing that never seemed to fade. Their love wasn't just about passion, it was about the way they cared for each other, the way they understood each other on a level that no one else could. Smith made sure that Elena always felt safe, always felt cherished, never once letting her doubt his love. He would wake up before her just to watch her sleep, to press gentle kisses to her forehead and whisper how lucky he was to have her. And Eleanor, in return, would run her fingers through his hair when he was stressed, hold him close when he needed comfort, remind him every day that he was loved beyond measure. They had built a love that was unbreakable, a bond that nothing could shake. Their nights were passionate, their days filled with laughter and tenderness, the love growing stronger with every passing moment. As time went on, their desire for each other never faded. It only grew more intense, more undeniable. Even after months of being together, Smith still looked at Elena as if she were the most beautiful woman in the world, as if he couldn't believe she was his. And Elena, in turn, still felt the same rush of excitement every time he touched her, still felt her heart race whenever he whispered her name. Their love was the kind that people dreamed of, the kind that never lost its spark, never dulled with time. They were completely, hopelessly, and irrevocably in love, and nothing in the world could ever change that. Elena had been feeling different for a few days now, her body reacting in ways she couldn't quite explain. There was a new warmth within her, a strange fatigue that made her want to rest more often, and a certain tenderness in her heart that made her feel even more connected to Smith. At first, she brushed it off, thinking it was just exhaustion from their endless nights of love. But deep down, there was a whisper of something more, something she dared not believe just yet. She didn't want to raise her hopes too soon, but the way her body reacted to the simplest things, how certain scents now made her dizzy, how a strange flutter stirred in her stomach every now and then, how an unfamiliar craving for things she never enjoyed before suddenly took over her, made her wonder if something miraculous was happening inside her. Smith, ever the attentive husband, noticed her changes immediately. He had always been deeply in tune with her, never missing even the smallest shifts in her behavior, and this time was no different. The moment he saw her press a hand to her stomach absent-mindedly, a flicker of something intense passed through his heart. Could it be? Was it possible? His mind raced, his heart pounded, and before he could stop himself, he was holding her face gently, his eyes searching hers with a mixture of excitement and concern. "Elena, my love, are you feeling unwell?" he asked, his voice laced with worry. She smiled softly, shaking her head, but the slight hesitation in her expression was enough for him. He didn't need another word, Without wasting a second, he grabbed his phone and immediately called the doctor, his heart refusing to calm down until he knew for sure. Within minutes, the best doctor in the city arrived at their villa, a team of medical professionals following closely behind, all at Smith's command. He wasn't the type of man to take chances, especially not when it came to Eleanor. He had spent years building an empire, making ruthless decisions, and controlling every aspect of his life. But when it came to his wife, he was a man completely ruled by love. He sat beside Elena, holding her hand tightly, his thumb stroking the back of her palm as the doctor performed the necessary tests. The wait was agonizing. Every second felt like an eternity, his mind running through every possible scenario. And then, finally, the doctor turned to them with a warm smile. "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Smith," he said, his voice filled with certainty. "Elena is pregnant." Time seemed to freeze. The words echoed in Smith's mind, sinking into every part of his soul. Pregnant. His Elena, the love of his life, the woman who had given him everything, was carrying their child. His heart exploded with emotions too powerful to contain. In a second, he turned to her, his eyes shining with unshed tears, and without thinking, he lifted her into his arms, spinning her round with sheer joy. "Elena, my love, we're having a baby," he exclaimed, his voice filled with wonder, his heart racing faster than ever. Elena laughed, wrapping her arms around his neck, her own eyes brimming with tears of happiness. She could feel the way he trembled slightly, the way his breaths came uneven, the way his heartbeat pounded wildly against her own. She had never seen him like this before, this powerful, dominant man, always so composed, was completely undone by the news of their child. "I love you so much," he whispered against her hair, pressing kisses along her temple, her forehead, her cheeks, anywhere he could reach. "You have given me the greatest gift, my love. You are my everything. And now, we have a piece of us growing inside you." He gently lowered her back onto the couch, kneeling in front of her, his hands coming to rest on her still flat stomach. His fingers traced slow, reverent circles over her abdomen, as if trying to feel the life blooming within her. "Our baby is in here," he murmured in awe, pressing his lips to her belly with a tenderness that made Elena's heart swell. "My little princess, or prince." He looked up at her, his eyes filled with an intensity she had never seen before. "Elena, you are the most precious thing in my life, and now you are carrying our child. I swear to you, I will protect you both with everything I have. No harm will ever come to you. I will love you more than ever, cherish you every single second, and give you the happiest life possible." Elena sniffled, overwhelmed by his devotion, her fingers threading through his hair as she cupped his face. "Smith, you already give me the happiest life," she whispered. "You love me so deeply, so completely. And now we are going to be parents. I can't wait to see you as a father. You will be the best father in the world, I know it." He exhaled sharply, his emotions nearly overwhelming him. He never thought he could love her more. But in this moment, knowing she was carrying his child, he realized his love for her had no limits. It was infinite, boundless, a force greater than anything he had ever known. From that moment on, Smith became even more protective of Elena, refusing to let her lift even a finger. He made arrangements immediately. 10 of the best doctors in the country were hired exclusively to monitor her health, ensuring she received the best care possible. A team of chefs prepared meals tailored specifically for her pregnancy. Nutritionists, therapists, and even a personal masseuse were brought in to ensure she was comfortable at all times. He transformed their villa into the safest, most luxurious haven for her, making sure she was surrounded by love, comfort, and happiness every second of the day. He wouldn't even let her walk too much, always carrying her when she seemed the slightest bit tired. "Smith, I'm pregnant, not fragile," she laughed one day as he insisted on carrying her up the stairs. He smirked, pressing a kiss to her nose. "You are carrying my child, Elena. That makes you the most precious thing in this world. I won't take any chances." Elena had never felt more cherished in her life. Every morning, she woke up to Smith's gentle kisses, his warm hands on her belly as he whispered sweet words to their baby. Every night he held her close, cradling her as if she were the most delicate treasure, his hands constantly caressing her growing belly, his heart bursting with love. They spent hours talking about their future, about the baby's name, about the kind of parents they wanted to be. Smith made it clear. This baby would have the happiest life, surrounded by nothing but love. And as the months passed, as Elena's belly grew, so did their love, reaching new heights neither of them thought possible. They had always been deeply in love, but now, with a little life growing between them, their bond became unbreakable. Smith often whispered to their unborn child, pressing soft kisses to Elena's stomach. "You are my second princess," he would say. "Your mother is my first, but together you both are my entire world." Elena would smile, running her fingers through his hair, knowing that this man, her husband, would love their child just as deeply as he loved her. Their love story had been passionate, intense, and beautiful from the start. But now, with the miracle of life growing inside her, they were stepping into a new chapter, one filled with even more love, more happiness, and the greatest blessing they could ever ask for. Smith had always been a man of power, control, and precision, a man who dominated the corporate world with ruthless efficiency. But when it came to Elena, his beloved wife and the mother of his unborn child, he was nothing but a man deeply, irrevocably in love, an entirely different version of himself that only she had the privilege to see. The moment he learned about her pregnancy, a switch flipped inside him, turning his already protective nature into something far more intense. He refused to take any risks, refused to let even the smallest discomfort touch her, and made it his sole mission to ensure that every single second of her pregnancy was spent in absolute comfort, safety, and happiness. Without wasting any time, he personally hired 10 of the world's most renowned doctors, specialists in maternal health, nutrition, fetal development, and wellness, to oversee Elena's pregnancy. They were given strict instructions. Elena's health and the baby's well-being were to be prioritized above all else, and not a single symptom, no matter how minor, was to be ignored. These doctors were not just on call. They were stationed in his grand villa 24/7, rotating shifts to monitor Elena at all hours of the day. There was always a doctor present, always someone ready to check her vitals, listen to her concerns, and ensure that both mother and child were thriving. But that was just the beginning. Smith went beyond medical care. He completely transformed their home into a paradise designed solely for Elena's comfort. Their already luxurious villa was now modified to accommodate every possible need she might have. A private maternity suite was built within their home, complete with a state-of-the-art medical facility, soft lighting, temperature-controlled environments, and a calming ambiance designed to keep Elena stress-free. The master bedroom was remodeled with the most exquisite pregnancy-friendly bedding, ensuring she had maximum comfort at all times. Plush pillows surrounded her, custom-made ergonomic furniture was placed in every room, and even the flooring was softened to minimize any impact on her body. She was not allowed to lift a single finger. Smith made sure of that. He personally oversaw the hiring of professional chefs who specialized in pregnancy nutrition, ensuring that every meal Elena consumed was rich in the vitamins and nutrients she needed. He banned any food that could potentially cause harm and made sure that everything she ate was not only healthy, but also delicious. Every morning, she was greeted with a breakfast spread tailored specifically to her cravings. Fresh fruits, warm pastries, nutrient-rich smoothies, and herbal teas that supported her body's changing needs. Throughout the day, gourmet meals were prepared under the supervision of expert nutritionists, leaving Elena not just nourished, but completely satisfied. If she ever so much as mentioned a craving, no matter how obscure, Smith would have it delivered within minutes, and his care didn't stop at food. He arranged for professional masseuses to visit daily, ensuring that her body remained relaxed and stress-free. He hired yoga instructors trained in prenatal exercises to guide her through gentle movements that kept her body strong and prepared for childbirth. A personal stylist was brought in to tailor maternity outfits specifically for her, ensuring she always felt beautiful despite her changing body. Smith wanted her to feel like a queen because to him, she was. But his greatest act of devotion was his presence. Smith, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar empire, a man whose schedule was once packed with endless meetings, international trips, and high-stakes negotiations, cleared everything. He stepped back from his business empire, delegating responsibilities to his most trusted executives so that he could dedicate every waking moment to Elena. He refused to be away from her for even a second, attending every doctor's appointment personally, listening intently to every update, memorizing every little detail about their baby's growth. He was always there, holding her hand, pressing gentle kisses to her forehead, whispering sweet reassurances whenever she felt anxious. "You are my world, Elena," he would murmur as he cradled her, his voice filled with unwavering love. "Nothing matters more than you and our baby. I'll do anything to keep you both safe." At night, he became even more doting. He insisted on carrying her up the stairs, even when she protested that she was perfectly capable of walking. "You're carrying my child," he would smirk, lifting her effortlessly in his arms. "That means you don't have to do anything but let me spoil you." He refused to let her sleep uncomfortably, adjusting pillows around her body, massaging her legs if they cramped, and making sure she was warm enough but never overheated. If she so much as stirred in the middle of the night, he was awake instantly, checking if she needed water, an extra blanket, or just his comforting embrace. Despite all his pampering, Elena sometimes laughed at his overprotectiveness. "Smith, I'm pregnant, not made of glass," she teased one evening as he insisted on feeding her himself. He chuckled, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "To me, you're the most precious thing in the world," he whispered, his lips grazing her knuckles. "And I won't take any chances." He even went as far as adjusting their social life to accommodate her comfort. Friends and family were only allowed to visit in controlled settings, ensuring Elena was never overwhelmed. The media was strictly kept away. No one was allowed to stress her, not even for a second. The entire world knew that Smith was a man deeply in love. And now, as an expecting father, his devotion had multiplied tenfold. He was fiercely protective, loving, and attentive in ways that left everyone in awe. As the months passed and Elena's belly grew, so did Smith's love. He was obsessed with her pregnancy, constantly placing his hands on her stomach, talking to their baby, feeling every little kick with pure wonder. "My princess," he would whisper against her skin. "You and your mommy are my entire universe." His heart swelled every time he felt their baby move, his love for Eleanor deepening in ways he never thought possible. And when Eleanor finally reached the later stages of pregnancy, Smith became even more attentive. He personally attended birthing classes with her, learning every technique, every breathing exercise, making sure he was fully prepared to support her through labor. He researched every possible way to make childbirth easier, insisting that she have the best birthing team available. He left nothing to chance. Through it all, Elena knew one thing with absolute certainty. She had married the most loving, devoted man in the world. Smith wasn't just her husband. He was her protector, her rock, her greatest love. He had transformed their home into a sanctuary of love, care, and absolute devotion, ensuring that every single moment of her pregnancy was filled with joy and security. And as she looked at him one evening, watching the way he knelt in front of her, pressing gentle kisses to her swollen belly, whispering words of love to their unborn child, her heart melted all over again. "I don't know what I did to deserve you," she murmured, running her fingers through his hair. Smith looked up, his eyes shining with pure adoration. "You existed, Eleanor. That's all it took. And I will spend the rest of my life showing you just how much I love you." In that moment, Elena knew. No matter what happened in life, she and their baby would always be the most cherished, most protected, most loved beings in Smith's world. And there was no greater happiness than that. Smith had always believed that Eleanor was the most breathtaking woman he had ever seen. But now, as she carried their child, she had transformed into something even more divine in his eyes. Every single day, he found himself mesmerized by her beauty, by the radiant glow that surrounded her, by the way she carried herself with such grace despite the changes her body was going through. He couldn't stop staring at her, couldn't stop marveling at the way her body blossomed with their love, how her curves became softer, how her face carried a serene glow that made her look like a goddess. He was obsessed with her, but this obsession was different. It wasn't just about desire anymore. It was about deep, boundless admiration. Every time he looked at her, he felt an overwhelming surge of love and gratitude, as if he were witnessing the most miraculous thing in the world. He couldn't believe that she was carrying his child, their child, that inside of her, a tiny life was growing, a piece of both of them, a living testament to their love. He adored her before, but now he worshipped her. From the moment Elena's pregnancy was confirmed, Smith had made it his mission to make sure she never felt anything less than the most cherished woman on earth. He would wake up before her just to watch her sleep, his eyes tracing the delicate rise and fall of her chest, his fingers brushing lightly over her stomach, which grew more pronounced with each passing day. He would smile to himself, feeling his heart swell with emotions he never thought he was capable of feeling. When she finally stirred awake, he would greet her with the softest kisses, starting from her forehead, trailing down to her cheeks, her nose, her lips, and finally, the small swell of her belly. "Good morning, my love, he would whisper, his voice filled with warmth, his hands never leaving her stomach. "And good morning to you, my little one." He spoke to their baby every single day, as if the tiny being inside of her could hear him, as if the love in his voice could already be felt. "Did you sleep well, baby? Did Mummy take good care of you? I know she did, because she's the best, the most beautiful, the most loving woman in the world." His words were endless, his devotion infinite. Elena would laugh, sometimes blushing at how obsessed Smith had become with her pregnancy. "You're talking as if the baby can hear you," she teased one morning, running her fingers through his hair as he pressed a soft kiss to her stomach. Smith looked up at her with a smirk, his hand resting possessively over her belly. "They can," he said confidently. They can feel everything, Elena. And I want them to know from the very beginning how much I love them, how much I love you." And with that, he would place another lingering kiss on her belly, closing his eyes as if committing the moment to memory. Every day, Smith found new ways to express his love for Elena and their unborn child. He pampered her relentlessly, ensuring that she never had to lift a finger. He would carry her to bed if she so much as yawned, insisting that she needed rest. He would give her foot massages every evening, pressing gentle kisses to her swollen ankles, murmuring how grateful he was for everything she was going through. "You're incredible, Elena," he would say, his voice thick with emotion. "You're growing life inside of you. I don't know how I got so lucky, but I swear I will spend every single day making sure you never have to worry about anything." And he did. He showered her with love in every possible way, whether it was through words, through actions, or through the way he looked at her, like she was the center of his universe. As her belly grew, so did Smith's obsession with feeling their baby move. Every kick, every flutter sent him into a state of pure awe. He would drop everything, meetings, phone calls, even important business deals, just to rush to Elena's side whenever she felt movement. "Let me feel," he would say urgently, his hands already reaching for her stomach, his face lighting up the moment he felt the tiniest kick. His eyes would widen, his lips parting in amazement. "That's our baby," he would whisper, his voice thick with emotion. "Our little one is saying hello." He never got tired of it, never once took it for granted. Every movement their baby made was a miracle to him, a reminder of the incredible life they had created together. But more than anything, Smith loved their quiet moments together. At night, when the world was silent and it was just the two of them, he would pull Elena into his arms, resting his head gently against her belly. "Do you think they can hear me?" he would ask, his voice filled with wonder. Elena would smile, running her fingers through his hair. "I think they know how much their daddy loves them," she would whisper, and Smith's heart would melt every single time. He would press soft kisses to her stomach, whispering sweet words to their baby, telling them about all the things he planned to do for them, all the love he was going to give. "You have the best mommy in the world," he would murmur. "She's beautiful. She's kind, and she loves you so much. And I love you too, more than anything. I promise to always protect you, to always take care of you and your mommy. You are my world, little one." Elena watched him with adoration, her heart swelling with love for the man who had given her everything. Smith, the powerful CEO who once seemed untouchable, was now the softest, most devoted husband and soon-to-be father. His love for her had only deepened, becoming something so pure, so unconditional, that it left her breathless. He didn't just love her, he worshipped her. Every kiss, every touch, every whispered promise was proof of that. As the months passed and her due date drew closer, Smith's excitement only grew. He was impatient, eager to finally meet their baby, to hold them in his arms, to look into their eyes and see a reflection of their love. But no matter how excited he was, nothing compared to the love he felt for Elena. She was his everything, the mother of his child, the woman who had turned his world into something magical. He never missed an opportunity to remind her of that, to make her feel cherished beyond measure. And as he lay beside her one evening, his head resting against her belly, listening to the soft sounds of their baby moving inside of her, he closed his eyes and smiled. "You're glowing, Elena," he whispered, his voice filled with reverence. "You're the most beautiful woman in the world, and I love you more than words can ever express." Elena smiled, running her fingers through his hair as tears of happiness filled her eyes. "I love you too, Smith," she whispered, "and our baby loves you too." At that moment, Smith knew his life was perfect. and he would spend forever making sure it stayed that way. Smith had always been a man of precision and excellence, ensuring that every aspect of his life was carefully curated to perfection. But when it came to preparing for their baby's arrival, he took his dedication to an entirely new level. From the moment the doctor confirmed Elena's pregnancy, he had made a silent vow to himself. His child would have nothing less than the absolute best. And so, with an unmatched determination fueled by love and an overwhelming sense of excitement, Smith embarked on a mission to create the most luxurious, comforting, and breathtaking nursery any baby could ever dream of. His villa, already a symbol of grandeur, would now hold within it a sanctuary dedicated solely to his unborn child, a space where warmth, safety, and love would envelop their precious little one from the very first moment they entered the world. The idea of his baby waking up in a place that was nothing short of magical ignited something deep within him, and he poured every ounce of his devotion into bringing that vision to life. He personally oversaw every single detail, leaving no room for imperfection. Smith didn't just assign the task to designers or assistants. No, this was far too important for him to delegate. He wanted to be involved in everything, to touch every fabric, to feel every texture, to ensure that every single item met his standards of quality and comfort. He walked through one of the largest wings of the villa, deciding that nothing less than the most spacious, most stunning area would do for his child's nursery. He envisioned it vividly, a place filled with light, warmth, and the softest colors, a space where his baby would grow up surrounded by beauty, love, and security. With a spark of excitement in his heart, he immediately called the best interior designers in the country, instructing them to drop everything and prioritize this project. But even though he hired experts, he was the one making every final decision. Smith spent hours going through designs, examining color palettes, ensuring that the atmosphere of the nursery would be soothing yet elegant. He chose soft pastels, gentle shades of ivory, cream, and blush pink for the walls, accented with golden details that exuded both warmth and luxury. He personally tested the fabrics for the curtains, ensuring they were made of the finest, silkiest materials that would allow just the right amount of sunlight to filter into the room, casting a glow of serenity. The flooring was carefully selected, crafted from the softest, cushioned wood that would be safe for tiny, unsteady feet in the future. Every choice he made was driven by one thought: his baby deserved the best, and he would make sure they had it. But it wasn't just about aesthetics. Smith went above and beyond to ensure that the nursery was equipped with everything his baby would ever need. He spent hours researching the highest quality cribs, ones that promised both comfort and safety, and when he finally found the perfect one, he ordered not just one, but three. One for the nursery, one for their bedroom, and another for his private office, because he already knew he would never want to be away from his child for long. He personally hand-picked plush bedding, making sure it was soft enough to feel like a cloud. The nursery was filled with luxurious rocking chairs, custom-made baby furniture, and a hand-carved changing table made from the rarest wood, designed with intricate engravings of stars and moons. Smith wanted everything to feel special, to hold meaning, to be a reflection of the love he already had for his baby. But the most touching part of the nursery was the little closet he designed with his own hands. Smith, the powerful CEO known for making billion-dollar deals, now found himself kneeling on the nursery floor, personally arranging tiny, delicate baby clothes into the wardrobe. He had personally selected each one, his heart swelling with indescribable emotion as he imagined his little one wearing them. He held up a tiny onesie, his fingers gently brushing over the fabric as he smiled to himself, picturing how small and fragile his baby would be. He had never imagined that something so simple, buying baby clothes, could fill him with so much joy. He had ordered dozens of outfits, from soft cashmere rompers to tiny, elegant suits and dresses, each one hand-picked with the thought of how precious his baby would look in them. Elena often found herself watching Smith with a mixture of amusement and deep affection, unable to believe just how devoted and obsessed he had become with preparing for their baby. She would walk into the nursery and see him standing there, completely lost in thought as he arranged and rearranged things, making sure every detail was flawless. "Smith," she would giggle, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "I think our baby's nursery is already more perfect than anything I could have ever dreamed of." But Smith would simply smile, turning to press a kiss to her forehead. "Nothing is ever too perfect for our child," he would say softly. "I want them to have the best of everything, just like their mother deserves the best of everything." But it wasn't just material things. Smith was preparing in every way possible. He read parenting books late into the night, educating himself on every stage of a baby's development. He researched the best pediatricians, ensuring that their baby would have access to top-tier medical care. He even took cooking lessons from world-class chefs, determined to learn how to prepare healthy meals for Elena and their baby in the future. Every single action he took was filled with love, a silent promise that he would always be the best father possible. As the final touches to the nursery were completed, Smith stood in the middle of the room, his heart swelling with emotions he couldn't even begin to put into words. He looked around, taking in the beautiful space he had created, and for a moment he could almost see it. The sound of his baby's laughter filling the air, the sight of tiny feet taking their first steps, the feeling of holding his child in his arms as they drifted off to sleep. The mere thought of it brought a lump to his throat, and he exhaled deeply, pressing a hand to his chest. Elena entered the room, her eyes shining with love as she took in the breathtaking nursery. She walked up to Smith, wrapping her arms around his waist as she leaned her head against his chest. "It's perfect," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. Smith tightened his arms around her, pressing a lingering kiss to her temple. "Not as perfect as you," he murmured. "Not as perfect as our baby is going to be." And in that moment, standing in the nursery that had been built with love, devotion, and endless care, they both knew their child was already the most cherished, the most wanted, the most loved being in the entire world. And as Smith placed his hand over Elena's growing belly, feeling the faintest of kicks beneath his palm, he whispered, "I can't wait to meet you, my little one. Daddy loves you more than anything in this world." The day had finally arrived. The moment Smith and Elena had been waiting for with bated breath, the culmination of months filled with anticipation, love, care, and the sweetest dreams of their future. The entire villa was engulfed in an atmosphere of excitement and nervousness, every staff member on high alert, every doctor and nurse standing by, ready to assist in the most precious event of their lives. Smith had barely slept the night before, his mind racing with emotions, his heart pounding in his chest as he watched over Elena, ensuring that she was as comfortable as possible. He had been by her side throughout her pregnancy, cherishing every moment, treating her like the queen she was. But now, as she lay on the hospital bed in the private suite he had prepared for her, pain flashing across her delicate face, he felt utterly helpless. He had never felt fear like this before. Fear of seeing her in pain, fear of something going wrong, fear of the unknown, yet mixed with that fear was an overwhelming sense of joy, knowing that in just a few moments he would finally hold their child in his arms. Elena gripped his hand tightly, her fingers trembling as waves of pain coursed through her body. Despite the discomfort, she managed to smile at him, her love for him shining through her tear-filled eyes. "Smith, our baby is coming," she whispered, her voice filled with both exhaustion and exhilaration. Smith leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead, his free hand brushing away the strands of hair stuck to her damp skin. "I'm right here, my love. You're doing amazing. Just a little more," he murmured, his voice soothing yet laced with his own overwhelming emotions. He had never admired her more than he did in that moment, watching her fight through the pain, her strength, her resilience, her devotion as she brought their child into the world. The doctors and nurses moved around them efficiently, their voices calm yet urgent, directing Elena through the process. Smith felt his breath hitch every time she let out a cry of pain, his heart clenching as he held her hand even tighter, silently wishing he could take the pain for her. He kept whispering words of encouragement, telling her how much he loved her, how proud he was of her, how their baby was almost here. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each second feeling like an eternity. But then, finally, a piercing cry filled the room, the most beautiful sound Smith had ever heard in his entire life. He felt his entire body freeze, his heart stop for a moment before it surged, with a love so powerful, so consuming, it nearly brought him to his knees. The doctor gently lifted their baby, a tiny, wriggling bundle of life, and Smith's breath caught in his throat. His eyes widened, his entire being flooded with indescribable emotion as he took in the sight of their child, his daughter, their precious little girl. She was small, delicate, her tiny hands clenched into fists, her pink skin soft and warm. Smith's vision blurred with tears, his entire world shifting in that single instant. Nothing else mattered, nothing in the world could compare to this moment. He barely registered the doctor's voice announcing, "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it's a beautiful baby girl." Because all he could see, all he could think about, was the miracle in front of him. Elena let out a sob of relief and joy as the nurse gently placed their baby on her chest. She cradled their daughter close, her fingers trembling as she stroked the tiny tuft of soft hair on the baby's head. "She's perfect," Elena whispered, her voice thick with love, and Smith felt his own tears fall freely down his face as he leaned in, pressing a trembling kiss to his daughter's forehead. He had thought he knew what love was. He had loved Eleanor with every fiber of his being. He had loved their unborn child from the moment he knew she existed, but nothing could have prepared him for the depth of love he felt in that moment, holding his daughter for the first time. The nurse carefully wrapped their baby in a soft, luxurious pink blanket that Smith had personally chosen months ago, knowing deep in his heart that they were having a little princess. As he reached out, his hands slightly unsteady, the nurse gently placed the baby in his arms, and the second she settled against his chest, he knew his life had changed forever. She was so tiny, so fragile, yet she held the entirety of his heart in her little hands. He stared down at her, memorizing every feature, her delicate nose, her rosy cheeks, the way her tiny fingers curled around his thumb, as if she already knew he was her father. "My princess," he choked out, his voice hoarse with emotion. "My first princess is Elena, and now my second princess is our daughter." His words were filled with raw love, an unbreakable promise, a vow that he would cherish and protect them both for the rest of his life. He gently rocked her in his arms, overwhelmed with a feeling so profound it was impossible to put into words. He had built empires, he had conquered the business world, he had amassed wealth beyond measure, but none of it compared to this. None of it mattered as much as the little girl in his arms, the woman by his side. Elena watched him with tears of happiness streaming down her face, her heart swelling as she saw the pure love radiating from Smith. She had always known he would be a wonderful father, but seeing him now, holding their daughter with such tenderness, such devotion, made her fall in love with him all over again. "She's lucky to have you as her father," she whispered, reaching out to touch his cheek. Smith turned to her, his blue eyes shining with emotion as he leaned in, pressing a deep, lingering kiss to her lips. "No," he murmured, "I'm the lucky one. You both are my greatest blessings." As the hours passed, Smith refused to let go of his daughter. He held her close, cradling her in his arms as he whispered sweet promises to her, telling her about the wonderful life he would give her, about how she would always be loved, always protected, always cherished. He traced his fingers over her tiny features, in awe of how someone so small could hold so much of his heart. He vowed that she would never know a day without love, that he would move heaven and earth to ensure her happiness. The villa, which had once been the epitome of luxury and power, now echoed with the softest lullabies, the sweetest laughter, the most heartfelt moments of love. The entire world faded away. And in that room, there was nothing but their little family, Smith, Elena, and their daughter, their love now woven into an unbreakable bond. And as Smith held his baby girl against his chest, feeling her tiny heartbeat against his own, he knew that this was the greatest success of his life, the most precious gift he had ever received. He looked at Elena, his wife, his queen, and then down at their daughter, their little princess, and he smiled through his tears, knowing that his life had never been more complete. Smith couldn't stop the overwhelming flood of emotions that crashed over him like an unstoppable wave, his heart swelling with an indescribable joy that brought tears streaming down his face in endless glistening trails. His powerful arms, usually so strong and commanding, trembled as he held his newborn daughter against his chest, feeling the tiny warmth of her delicate body, the rhythmic rise and fall of her soft breaths, the gentle weight of the little miracle he and Elena had created together. His mind spun in a whirlwind of emotions, love, gratitude, awe, and an unshakable sense of responsibility, because in that moment, nothing else in the world mattered except for the two most precious beings in his life. His vision blurred as he stared down at his baby girl, her tiny hands curled into delicate fists, her impossibly soft skin brushing against him as she nestled perfectly in his embrace, as if she had always belonged there, as if she had been sculpted by fate itself to fit against her father's heart. He gently stroked her tiny fingers, marveling at their perfection, at how something so small, so fragile, could hold the entirety of his soul in her grasp. He had never imagined that fatherhood could feel like this, so powerful, so consuming, so utterly life-changing. His entire existence had been centered around business empires, wealth and power, but none of it compared to this, to the sheer magnitude of love that surged through him as he gazed at his daughter, as he listened to her soft, sleepy sounds, as he felt the undeniable bond that had already formed between them. The unstoppable tears continued to fall, unrestrained and unapologetic, because for the first time in his life, Smith had been brought to his knees by love, by gratitude, by the immense beauty of the life he was now holding in his arms. He turned his tear-filled eyes to Elena, the woman who had given him this gift, this irreplaceable blessing, and without hesitation, he leaned down, capturing her lips in a deep, soul-searing kiss that conveyed every emotion that words could never express. His tears mingled with hers as he pressed his forehead against hers, his voice thick with raw emotion as he whispered, "Thank you, my love. Thank you for giving me the most precious gift I could ever receive." Elena smiled through her own tears, her heart melting at the sight of the strongest man she knew, breaking down in the purest form of happiness. She reached up, cupping his face, her thumbs brushing away the trails of his tears as she whispered back, "She is ours, Smith. Our little princess." Smith inhaled sharply, the weight of those words sinking deep into his soul, filling every corner of his being with an overwhelming sense of purpose. He looked back down at their daughter, his beautiful baby girl, and with a choked breath he pressed the gentlest of kisses to her forehead, his lips lingering as he whispered, "My little princess, you have already changed my world, and I promise I will give you everything. I will protect you, love you, cherish you for all eternity." His voice cracked with emotion, but he didn't care. He had never meant anything more in his life. He cradled her closer, his large hands enveloping her tiny body as if shielding her from the entire world, silently vowing that nothing would ever harm her, that she would know nothing but happiness, security, and love. The room was filled with nothing but the sound of their breathing, their quiet sobs of happiness, the unspoken love that radiated between them. Even the doctors and nurses stood back, watching in quiet reverence, knowing they were witnessing a moment of pure, untainted love, an unbreakable bond between a father and his newborn daughter. Smith, the powerful, untouchable CEO who had conquered industries and built an empire, was now nothing more than a man completely and utterly devoted to the little girl in his arms. His tears didn't stop, nor did he try to hold them back, because for once in his life, he didn't need to be strong. He didn't need to be in control. He simply needed to love. And love he did. Without limits, without hesitation, without end. He kissed his daughter again, whispering endless promises, letting her tiny heartbeat sink with his own, letting himself drown in the realization that this was the greatest moment of his life. And as he held her close, still crying tears of pure joy, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. His life had only just begun. Smith had always believed that success was measured in power, wealth, and influence, but now, as he stood in the grand villa he had built, watching Elena cradle their baby girl in her arms, he realized that true success was measured in love, in family, in the precious moments that made life worth living. Every single day, from the moment he opened his eyes to the moment he closed them at night, his world revolved around the two most important people in his life, Elena, the woman who had stolen his heart, and their daughter, the tiny miracle who had completed their love story. No deal, no board meeting, no amount of money could ever compare to the joy he felt when he came home to see his wife's radiant smile and their baby girl's tiny hands reaching for him. His heart swelled every time he walked into the nursery he had prepared with so much love, seeing Eleanor gently rocking their daughter to sleep, her soft lullabies filling the room with warmth. And in those moments, Smith knew he would give up everything just to keep this happiness forever. He made sure that neither Elena nor their daughter ever felt a second of loneliness or neglect. Every evening he would take Elena into his arms, whispering sweet words of love, reminding her just how much she meant to him. He had always loved her, but after she became the mother of his child, his love deepened to an extent he never thought possible. She was his queen, the woman he would worship every single day of his life. Every morning, he kissed her forehead and held their daughter in his arms, gently pressing his lips to her tiny hands, marveling at how someone so small could hold his entire heart. No matter how demanding his work was, He never let a single day pass without reminding his family of his love, whether it was surprising Elena with fresh flowers, taking their daughter on long walks around the villa's beautiful gardens, or simply lying in bed, holding them both in his arms, thanking fate for giving him a life so perfect. He was not just a husband or a father, he was a man deeply, hopelessly in love, devoted to his family in a way that left everyone around them in awe. Their friends, their employees, even strangers who caught glimpses of their love couldn't help but admire them. Smith and Elena were proof that true love, the kind that didn't fade with time but only grew stronger, was real. Their love was rare, pure, and unbreakable. And every moment they spent together was a testament to the kind of happiness that only came when two souls were meant to be. Smith often found himself watching Elena as she played with their daughter, his heart swelling with pride and adoration. She was not just the love of his life, she was the most incredible mother, and seeing her care for their little girl made him fall for her all over again, every single day. At night, after their daughter was asleep, he would pull Elena into his arms, tracing gentle patterns on her skin, whispering promises of forever, telling her that she was his greatest blessing, his first princess. And now, with their daughter, their family was complete. And as he held them close, feeling the warmth of their love surround him, he knew there was nothing in the world he wouldn't do to keep them happy. He was a man who had everything, but in reality, his true wealth was not in his business empire. It was in the love of his wife and daughter, in the laughter that echoed through their home, in the quiet moments of affection that made life worth living. He had built a perfect family, a love so deep and eternal that no force on earth could shake it. And as he kissed Elena goodnight, as he whispered sweet words to their sleeping daughter, Smith knew that this was not just happiness. This was a love story that would last for eternity. From the moment Eleanor and Smith became parents, their lives changed in the most beautiful way, but one thing remained constant: their deep, passionate love for each other. If anything, their love only grew stronger with each passing day. Despite the new responsibilities that came with raising their daughter, they never let their romance fade. Smith, who had always been deeply obsessed with Elena, now found himself even more in love with her than ever before. Watching her care for their baby with such tenderness, seeing her glowing with motherly warmth, made his heart swell with admiration. He couldn't keep his hands off her, always finding an excuse to pull her close, to kiss her, to remind her that no matter how much time passed, she would always be the woman who drove him crazy with desire. Elena, too, felt the same way. Every time she looked at Smith, she saw not just the powerful CEO the world admired, but the devoted husband and father who would do anything to make her happy. She loved the way he doted on her, the way he still made her feel like the most beautiful woman in the world, even after childbirth, and the way he never let a single day pass without showing her how much she meant to him. Their love was a perfect balance of passion and tenderness. No matter how busy their days were, they always made time for each other. Smith had made a rule. No matter how many business meetings, no matter how many responsibilities, his nights belonged to Elena. As soon as their daughter was asleep, he would sweep Elena into his arms, carrying her to their bedroom, where their love would ignite all over again. The passion they shared was just as intense as their first night together, if not more. The way he touched her, the way he whispered sweet nothings into her ear, the way he worshipped her body like she was the most precious treasure in his life, it never changed. He was addicted to her, completely obsessed with every little thing about her, from the way she smiled to the way she blushed when he held her gaze for too long. Their home was filled with love, not just in the way they cared for their daughter, but in the way they cherished each other. Their friends and family often marveled at how they managed to keep the spark alive, how they still looked at each other with the same fire in their eyes as when they had first fallen in love. Smith never let Eleanor forget how much she meant to him. He would surprise her with candle-lit dinners in their garden, take her on spontaneous weekend getaways, and leave little love notes for her to find throughout the day. Elena, in return, showered him with affection, making sure he always felt the warmth of her love in every embrace, every touch, every whispered, "I love you," before they drifted off to sleep. Their love story was one that never lost its magic. Even as time passed, even as they grew older, even as their daughter grew up before their eyes, they remained just as madly in love as they were from the start. Smith would often tell Eleanor, "You are my first princess, and you always will be." And each time she would smile, her heart melting all over again. They were not just husband and wife. They were soulmates, destined to love each other forever. And as they held hands, looking at their beautiful daughter who was growing up in a home filled with love, they knew they had built something truly special, a love that would never fade, a love that would only grow stronger with each passing day. Years passed, but time did nothing to dim the fire between Smith and Elena. If anything, their love had only deepened, growing stronger with every shared moment, every whispered confession, every passionate embrace. Smith still looked at Elena as if she were the only woman in the world, his eyes burning with the same intensity as the night they first surrendered to each other. He still couldn't keep his hands off her, still got lost in her beauty, still craved her touch every second of the day. No matter how many years went by, she remained his greatest addiction, the one person who could make his heart race with just a single glance. Their daughter, now growing into a bright and beautiful young girl, had the privilege of witnessing the kind of love that most people only dreamed of. She saw the way her father worshipped her mother, the way he would pull Elena into his arms as if he couldn't stand to be apart from her even for a moment. She saw how he would surprise Elena with flowers for no reason at all, how he would kiss her forehead tenderly and whisper how much he loved her, how he would never let a single day pass without reminding her that she was the most important person in his life. Their daughter grew up in a home filled with laughter, warmth, and endless affection. She watched in awe as her parents danced together in the living room, as her mother blushed under her father's intense gaze, as they stole kisses when they thought no one was watching. She learned what true love looked like, not through words, but through the way her parents cherished each other every single day. Smith never changed. He remained the doting husband who made sure Elena never had to lift a finger, the protective father who adored his daughter with all his heart, and the passionate lover who still lost control every time he was alone with his wife. He often told Elena, "You were my first princess, and now our daughter is my second, but you will always be my greatest love." And each time, Elena's heart melted all over again. She never stopped falling in love with him, never stopped feeling like the luckiest woman in the world to have a husband who treasured her the way Smith did. Their life together was nothing short of a fairy tale, a love story that never lost its magic, a romance that burned brighter with each passing year. Even as they grew older, even as their hair turned silver and their daughter became a woman of her own, Smith and Elena remained inseparable, their love unwavering, their passion undying. They spent their days wrapped in each other's arms, still whispering sweet nothings, still kissing as if it were their first time, still completely lost in the magic of their love. They were living proof that true love never fades, that when two souls are meant for each other, their passion never dies. And as they sat on the porch of their grand villa, watching the sunset together, their fingers intertwined just as they had been from the very beginning, they knew one thing with absolute certainty. This love, their love, was forever.